you actually directly relates to the topic of the seminars. But one of the examples I give, for instance, is that we have to change. You said, how do we change our mindset? How do we come out stronger? One of the most important ways to come out stronger is to understand what is happening in the correct way, right? Mm-hmm. So the way that I explain it is, you imagine that you're going to the gym and you say to your personal trainer, I want to become strong, I want to become fit, I want to build my endurance, and I want to be able to run a marathon, right? So now what will that trainer do for you? Well, I'll tell you what that trainer won't do for you. They won't say, there's a couch over there, go make yourself comfortable. And here's some, crisps and chips and hamburgers. Yeah. The trainer is actually going to put you through some challenges, right? And the trainer is going to have you lift weight, and the trainer is going to have you push yourself, and actually go through some struggle. Now, someone who's maybe a child who doesn't have a deep understanding of this whole process might look at that and say, wow, what a mean trainer. Why is that trainer being so cruel? Why is that trainer putting you through all this pain? But the adult who's actually paying the trainer to do this understands no pain, no gain, right? And the adult understands that this is actually a process to make that individual stronger and have greater resilience and endurance. And so you kind of see in this analogy, the child who doesn't really understand the process and why, and doesn't see beyond the pain, maybe, will look at it and be like, but why? Why are you being so mean to my mom? Why are you being mean to my dad, and making them lift this weight? But see, the adult who has that understanding is actually grateful. And that's because they understand that this is how they're getting stronger, and this is how they're going to be able to run the marathon. So while Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is above any analogy, He is like a trainer for us. He doesn't put us through difficulties to break our back or to paralyze us any more than the trainer is trying to paralyze the one they're training or break their back. And so the real issue is this. If I can understand that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is doing what's good for me and what's going to strengthen me and build me, then I'll have a very different response. I won't say, why me? I won't say, why, God, where are you? I'll say, I know you're doing what's best for me to build me and to strengthen me. Now is the question, and this is actually one of the core issues that I discuss in the seminars and in my books, is what happens when you get to a point where you do feel like your back is breaking? What happens when you do feel like you're getting paralyzed by the weight? If that happens, it is actually a sign that there's something that you're doing that needs to change. It means that you're not actually following the instruction of the trainer properly. Because in the gym, you're not supposed to be breaking your back. And in life, you're not supposed to be getting paralyzed by your hardships, because لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها. That Allah never puts a burden on anyone beyond what they can bear. And so what I know is that if the burden feels as though I cannot bear it, it means it's something that I need to change or something I need to heal.
Shukran so much for that question. That was...
And that was also, so it really sparked a lot of thoughts from all different sides, speaking also about connecting the practical concepts to the theoretical concepts that we also learn. And there are so many in-betweens that we don't always focus on, when it is in between doing this, understanding this, and actually putting it into practice. And one of the things that also came to my mind as you were mentioning this is in a hadith where it mentions how the mercy of Allah descends when you are doing something that is correct. For the student's example, in the hadith, when you are studying, when you are in that sitting, and when you are trying, the wings of the angels lowers for you, and that's part of Allah's rahmah. And in the ways that you are mentioning, there can sometimes be instances where people don't necessarily see how that mercy is descending, and in the times when it is happening to them, but they are so consumed by the negativity, by the hardship, that they don't see the light, even though it is there. How would you say that they can nudge themselves towards identifying that and actually seeing that even in the midst of that heartbreak and pain?
And actually, that is an essential skill. And it's something that I spend a lot of time emphasizing, is that ability to shift our focus and to manage our focus, because we choose where we focus, and where we focus grows. So it's very important that we manage our focus. And as you said, and this is, by the way, resilience experts, for example, talk about the importance of leaning into the good. One resilience expert, she had studied, she'd researched and taught about resilience for like over a decade. And then she had her own concepts tested when she lost her 12-year-old daughter and best friend in a car accident. And she talks about how she had to apply these concepts in real life, right? Turning the conceptual into something very practical. And one of the things she said she had to do is every single day she had to into the good, meaning look for the things that were the mercies, the blessings in every single day, versus she could have very easily just focused on the child that she had just lost. But she said, I had to force myself to also see the two children that I still had. I had to force myself to focus on the support that we had been given from our family and friends. And that is how I was able to survive this tragedy. And so it's really very important to our, not just our resilience, but really our survival, that we are not a people who just focus on the things that hurt us, the things we don't like, the things that are missing, the things that annoy and upset us. If we just make that a focus, like in my own life, like things happen, right? And there's a lot of things, especially as you travel and you're doing a lot of events and you're meeting a lot of people, there's going to be things that that you don't like. There's always going to be. That's the nature of dunya. So kind of in my own life, I try to just like give myself a minute. You know what I mean? Like, okay, I can express that I don't like this thing, but then I have to move on. You know what I mean? Like I can't dwell in it. I don't sit in it. Okay, what's next? You know what I mean? And that's just a practical way you have to live your life. Because if you sit in every single thing that is imperfect, or didn't happen the way you wanted it, you're going to be sitting in a lot of dirt, a lot of stuff. And so we have to be able to see the bigger picture. I'm not talking about suppressing. Like that's another problem, because it's kind of like two extremes. Some people will be like, they're really upset with something, but they'll act passive aggressive about it. Like, oh, it's fine. But really inside they're raging about it. I'm not like that. I'm not going to say it's fine ever if it's not fine.
Yeah.
I'll say it, but then I have to move on.
Yeah.
Like I'll let it out. I'll express it. Like, oh my God, everybody likes to put sweet sauce on my burgers. And it's like next level, right? I can't stand sweet sauce on my burgers, right? That's like, okay, I can be frustrated for about 2 seconds and then I have to move on. Like, you know what I mean? That's a really small example. But the point is that it's not about suppressing, right? And pretending that the problem isn't there. But we just can't dwell on these things either. We have to let it out and move on. And that's why I really, really find the prophetic statement so powerful, where, when he lost his son, and he says, the eyes shed tears and the heart feels grief, but the tongue does not utter except what is pleasing to Allah. So he's really describing a process of grieving. And part of that process is letting it out. The heart, the eyes shed tears. That is step one of what he's talking about. And then he says the heart feels grief, which means he's not suppressing the grief, as many of us are told, have sabr. And it basically means don't do steps 1 and 2 of the prophetic advice, right? Like, don't cry and don't feel sad. Don't cry, don't grieve. Well, he did both of these things, but the tongue does not utter except what is pleasing to Allah. So he's describing sabr in the context of proper grieving.
Ustada, is it okay then to say to yourself that if I am in this difficult situation, I can't cope?
It's that you can't cope.
Yes, I
Okay.
can't cope. This is too much for me. I'm trying to, but I can't cope.
So you're hitting the nail on the head right now. One of the problems and why we become overwhelmed is we're trying to cope on our own. And that's important. We're trying to carry the storm on our back. Trying to, see that, Table Mountain? I'm going to carry it myself. I'm going to carry it right here on my shoulders. That's impossible. So sometimes, and a lot of times, the reason we become overwhelmed and the reason we break our back and feel as though we're being paralyzed is because I'm relying on myself. And we sometimes think, I'm not going to rely on anyone else. I'm just going to rely on me. Sounding familiar. I'm just going to rely on me, right? I got this.
Yeah.
Wrong answer. Wrong answer. You don't got this. You cannot rely on yourself. And if you do, that Table Mountain will crush you. You have to rely on Allah. And so you should go to Allah and say, I can't do this myself. And I don't got this. I need you. That's what prophets did. They said to Allah that I need you. I can't do this on my own. Prophet Muhammad ﷺ himself used to say, وَلَا تَكِلْنِي إِلَى نَفْسِي طَرْفَةَ عَيْنٍ. Do not leave me to myself for the blink of an eye. So if he is saying that, how about us thinking that we got this? We don't. So we become overwhelmed when we're relying on ourselves and not going to Allah and saying exactly what you just said. I can't cope. I can't do it on my own. I need your help, Ya Allah. The other thing is we need to ask for ease from Allah. This is another mistake that we make, is we ask for things like sabr, we ask for things like strength, but we don't ask for ease. And that's a mistake. We need to ask for ease from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this was the advice of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam himself. And I write about this in the book, is the asking for afiyah. Afiyah is this overall concept of ease, well-being, and protection from harm and hardships.
Fantastic.
Beginning the interview, Mustada, you mentioned, attachment to dunya, and you spoke about that in your last workshop as well. So how do we accept, basically, or detach ourselves from certain things in the dunya, such as money, such as something we all love, and then
Or
of
even
course
our spouse.
Our spouse. And how do we set this example for our children? Because of course they look up to us and they see what we're doing, and they learn from that. And we then create we kind of brush off the fact of gratitude because there's so much of problems that we focus on.
Yes, absolutely. Well, you're asking so many important questions, but the last one I'll just emphasize. You're absolutely right. In Arabic they say فاقد الشيء لا يعطي, which means if you are missing something, you can't give it. If you're deprived of something, you can't give it to others. So if you yourself are not modeling gratitude because you're always focused on problems, always complaining, then yes, it's very hard to model that and give that to your children. So we need to set an example of gratitude and of how to deal with roadblocks. How do we deal with roadblocks? If you can sit and you can curse the roadblock forever, you know what I mean? But you don't get anywhere. You're not going to get anywhere that way. So you have to teach your children what to do. Okay, you're frustrated about this. Okay, let me know you're frustrated, but keep going. Figure out how you're going to get around the roadblock. Figure out how you're going to get past this. You can't just sit and dwell on the problem. This is one of the things that frustrates me is like I said, I have like a time limit of how long I can dwell on a problem before I'm going to talk about the solution. You know what I'm saying? But a lot of people just get stuck in that. They just get stuck in, here's the problem. Let's describe it. Let's talk about it again. Let's talk about it again. Let's talk about from this angle. Let's talk about from this angle. What about this? What about that? I can't stand that. It's like, I'll talk about the problem for a certain amount of time, but then you got to tell me what are we going to do about it?
Yeah.
What's the action? What's the solution? What's the movement? What's the forward movement? You know what I mean? So that's very important. Gratitude is very important. And, and in terms of talking about how can we find that ability to not hold on to these things in unhealthy ways? Honestly, so one of the things I talk about in Reclaim Your Heart is there's this chapter called Fall in Love with Something Greater, right? Or Fall in Love with a Real Thing. And what that concept is about is the reason we become attached to things like money and cars and as you said, unhealthy attachments to people and the creation is because we have not found something greater to attach ourselves to.
Mm.
You know, they say you don't get over someone until you find someone better. That type of thing, right? It's like rebound, right? What's the idea there? The idea is like, I found something better, so I forgot about the lesser thing. Okay. The reason we become so attached in an unhealthy way to dunya and the creation is we haven't found something greater to attach ourselves to. And there is something greater to attach ourselves to, which is the creator and hereafter. بل تؤثرون الحياة الدنيا والآخرة خير وأبقى. Allah is asking this very important rhetorical question. Do you prefer the life of this world, when the next is greater and more lasting? Meaning, it is better in quality and it is better in quantity. It meaning that it's perfect and it lasts forever. No matter how good it gets in this life, it's never perfect and it doesn't last forever. No matter how much Botox, plastic surgery, you can't hold on to youth. You can't hold on to health forever. So this life is limited. So really, I think we become so attached to these things because we haven't really attached ourselves to what's greater.
And on that note, we head for a break and we will return shortly.
Your health is your wealth, and to your health, we provide our clients with professional and clinical health services. We stock a wide range of health products, so whatever your health issue, we have the natural product for you.
Do you want to maybe
And
just
to your health,
do you have any
live
ideas of
blood
what you wanted to
analysis,
highlight
which
in
helps
the
to
Mm.
enhance and improve your health. We pride ourselves
Because this is like the lot.
Yeah.
last few minutes?
quality natural products.
You can mention the meet
Call
and
us
greet,
today
I
for a
guess,
free
because this year we have that.
consultation.
Okay. The certificate's available.
Sorry?
Certificate's
Yes.
available. But
Just
it's
limited.
University situated at Kenilworth
Not really.
Centre and open 7 days a week.
Mother Lee Kenilworth Centre is open for dinner.
Cinema.
Come and treat
Mhm.
yourself
Maybe
to
just speak
hearty
about,
Dennis lamb
you know,
meatballs,
the workshop
gourmet
and the
burgers,
times and the
tapas
tickets.
plates that are ideal for mixing
You have the
matching
details,
and
yeah?
sharing. Plus, there are more and more meat-free options on the new menu. Why not top off your meal with a delicious
The
slice of
afternoon
freshly
one
baked cake?
is
Mud and Bean Kenilworth Centre. Strictly halal,
untrained.
EXA certified.
Call and collect orders
The
now on
afternoon
promotion. With every 150
is
rand
either
spent on
untrained.
takeaways and get a free
Yes.
Asian cauliflower bite or a portion of wings absolutely free.
No, it's not.
Untrained is the morning one. Oh, the morning
And the
one.
afternoon is breaking down.
Breaking dawn, not down.
Breaking dawn.
We don't want people to break down.
Sorry.
It's how to break down. Get back up. No, it's a good topic.
It can be. Standard Bank is an authorized FSP. T's and C's apply.
Somewhere in Kaapstad, Forest Run makes a bull run down to Busy Corner Meatpaper. Like Chop Gun, you flies down the road to the nearest store and buys the perfect steak.
The capture has
Wait, is this still
Only
on
to
that?
realize
No,
that you
it's
could have
not.
stayed home, ordered on busycorneronline.co.za and have it delivered. Chop, chop. He makes his way home.
Are you guys taking
Oh, on the
questions?
WhatsApp line.
WhatsApp line.
The message by you.
We have 15
No,
minutes.
that is for this one.
Yes.
Yeah, let's just check the WhatsApp
Busy
line.
Corner Meatpaper, where people meet.
Oh no, it's recipe day.
Okay, but are there any other questions?
There, just check that one. The pick is still available. To
Okay,
see
so we'll
us
talk
in
about
China.
Can we finish in 5 minutes?
10-2, right? They're gonna finish it.
Okay, so then maybe.
Yeah, that's fine.
Oh wow, 7 minutes.
Okay, so
Isn't it?
then maybe
Yeah,
I
7
can
minutes, yes.
ask about what is happening on Saturday, and then all the details can be mentioned.
But you're gonna mention them, or I mean the timing and the
No,
topics.
because we only have. I think you can mention because we only have.
I don't have it in front of me. I can memorize it. I thought you were gonna say it.
Do you have it? You said to put that information.
I don't. Oh, if you don't have it. I can say it.
Just have it on your.
Yeah.
Then I'll just add on what we have.
Do you want the poster?
Yeah.
The information?
Alive.
The 10 a.m. Express.
So,
Welcome back to the program. We are joined this morning in studio by Ustad Yasmin Mogahed as well as my colleagues Vidal and Yasmin Peterson. So we have been discussing a variety of topics and also different questions that we've been asking Ustada. But regarding the seminars that will be held this Saturday, how will it be different? as opposed to everything that we've been discussing, as well as the previous seminars that were held here? What can people look forward to?
Okay, so inshallah this Saturday, the first seminar will be from 10 o'clock, inshallah ta'ala, and that will be Unchained. And that's going to be about breaking out of our mental and cultural prisons. So I talked about this also in Johannesburg, and that was a sold out event and had amazing feedback, because what I did is I really went into many of the reasons why we end up sort of in these patterns of suffering, and many of them are because of these invisible cultural shackles which don't come from our deen. And there's this mixing of deen and culture. And so how can we start to understand that these things that are keeping us shackled and suffering in many cases are actually not from Allah and His Messenger, but many of them are from culture. And there's the mental prisons as well that we discuss. And that's in the morning, inshallah. There's still some limited seats available. You can register at the link on my Instagram bio. And then the afternoon session begins at 3 o'clock, inshallah. And that one is called Breaking Dawn. And that's about finding joy even in the midst of pain. I sort of touched upon some of those themes today. But basically, these are also, this class is about how we can start to, as you mentioned, talk about and understand our struggles as the gym with the personal trainer versus, someone who's trying to break us. And this, and I heard it from a woman yesterday too that I met, and she was just like, I'm really struggling, and I have a lot of anger. And sometimes that anger, when you don't know what to do with it, it gets directed at Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's just so toxic. And how can we break out of that? And what's the, and it's interesting because ironically, the reason that happens is when we don't have the opportunity to release and process the grief properly, it turns to anger. And then that anger gets internalized, externalized, and also turned towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is the most toxic, of course. So I'll talk about those themes. And one of the things that, I was mentioning that this time around, I have the opportunity to do a meet and greet at the end of each seminar. And I've really liked that interaction with people. Alhamdulillah, it's an opportunity to meet people on a more personal level, shake their hand, give them a hug, have their book signed and photographed. So that's been a big highlight of this tour. And inshallah, we'll have that as well at both seminars in Cape Town.
Inshallah. And speaking of this, there are still limited tickets available for anyone that would like to attend the programs, whether it's the morning or the afternoon, inshallah. And those are available via the link. It is on our social media platforms as well as Ustadha Yasmin Mogahed. Unfortunately, that is all the time we do have for today with you, Ustadha, and we do wish you well, and that this weekend, Saturday, will be a success for both seminars, inshallah. Ameen. Shukran for joining us, and assalamu alaikum.
Jazakumullah khairan wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
That was Ustadha Yasmin Mogahed speaking to us about the seminars being held this Saturday, and the first is at 10 a.m. and in the afternoon at 3 p.m. as well. There are still limited tickets available if you would like some, so do head off to that link on all of our social media platforms. For now, we take a break and we will return shortly.
Good job.
Can I stop?
You have to match it.
Shukran.
Do
You guys want to all look at me and I'll take a quick photo?
Alright.
Okay, where are we standing?
We'll stand here, I think.
But hold on, ready? Don't you want to go stand here?
I'm at the back, I'm fine.
Oh,
Are we still live?
yeah.
No.
The live is always the live is